truth is, Adam almost made me cry, but it was crying in a good way. I became teary eyed when he was coaching me and he spoke belief into my goals. And it's one of those things that there are certain people in the world that just have this ability to be the greatest cheerleaders, but he is not just a cheerleader. He gives you practical advice. He will tell you how it is. He will use his experiences and his knowledge to give you the best advice. If you're looking for someone like that, if you're looking for just like a genuine person who can coach you, then you need Adam. He has also helped me to reach 10,000 downloads for my podcast within a little over 6 months. I implemented a lot of the things that he had shared from listening to his podcast and from his coaching. And now I have this podcast that is growing and successful. And I just want you to know that you will not regret paying Adam to be your podcast coach.
What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's the show where I teach podcasters simple strategies to help you make more money, get more clients, and build a profitable online business. Pod Pals, welcome to the year 2026. First episode of the new year. I'm loving it. Hopefully everybody had a successful and healthy holiday season. You're ready to rip here. We've been talking about prepping for this moment. January is huge in the content creator, content entrepreneur, podcasting space. So we are going to kick off the year with a lot of momentum. We're talking about podcast growth. This is obviously a problem because many of us quit. You know, you hear the stats. I talk about them all the time. 17% of podcasters don't make it past episode 10. Only 5% make it to episode 100. Mostly because we're not seeing that ROI of not even money ROI. It's just growth. We feel like we are just yelling into the void and we hear nothing back. We don't see the downloads. We don't get the engagement that we want. And most aren't making money. And obviously with this show, with my content, with my business, with my coaching, I'm trying to help you solve this problem. One thing that we are kicking off the new year with, before we dive in, I got some great updates today on my podcast growth game plan for 2026. But before we get to that, my simple CTA of the day is I have a brand new course plus coaching program available. It's this new little package. I'm going to do an episode where I unpack this strategy and this package and this type of an offer because I've got a lot of my clients doing this already and they're seeing great results with it as well. But it's a course plus coaching program. It's my podcast growth bootcamp course. You're going to get 4 weeks of pop-in group coaching with me done via my office hours. So you can pop in multiple times throughout the week and get help as you work through the course directly with me in a small group format. Most people don't like online courses because there is no access to the creator. There's no accountability. And with this package, you're getting both. And this is working really, really well so far. So you get my podcast growth bootcamp course plus 4 weeks of pop-in group coaching with me and a special to kick off the new year. If you get signed up, if you make the purchase with the link in the show notes by this Friday, January 9th, 2026, you're going to get a bonus 5th week of coaching. So I'm going to tack on an additional week of access to me as you work through the bootcamp. This bootcamp course is what produces really outstanding results for most of my clients. This is exactly what I use. The strategies that I go through here today are going to be obviously covered in depth, and you get my help with this course plus coaching package. So check out the link in the show notes. All right, let's dive in and talk about, let's see, I've got 5 strategies that I'm going to unpack today that are the core of my podcast growth game plan for 2026. The first thing is I am sticking with 1 episode per week. This is a strategy that I shifted to in, I think, March of 2025. For several years, I was doing either 2 or even 3 episodes per week, and I decided to throttle back. This is when I really embraced that less but better mantra, and it was a little bit unnerving. I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea or not. It's always scary to throttle back on content, but I just trusted my gut. It felt right. So I did it. And at this point, I've seen my downloads per episode double since then. So in the fourth quarter of 2025, my downloads per episode had doubled compared to what they were at in March of 2025. So it took about 7 months. There was a definite dip. When you release less content, you will get fewer downloads. That is expected. But now, obviously, we have 603 episodes counting this one, a large back catalog. You guys are diving into that back catalog. If you want a little extra Adam time each week, you've got plenty of opportunities to do that with that back catalog. And this is working really, really well. And this has allowed me to invest more time in clients and effectively marketing the episode, in my writing, and in my newsletter, and really showcasing that weekly newsletter as the second piece of core content. So instead of 2 podcast episodes per week, you get the Tuesday podcast episode and the Thursday Podcasting Business School newsletter on a totally different topic. So you get a nice robust amount of content each week still in 2 different delivery mechanisms. So I'm sticking with this. It is working. It's worked extremely well for just the per episode growth and the entire rest of my content ecosystem. This has been a great play for me. So sticking with 1 episode per week, that's the first thing. The second thing, podcast guesting is still a really important part of my strategy. My goal for this year is to be on at least 4 podcasts per month as a guest. And I probably was on 1 to 2 per month in 2025. My calendar and my schedule is a lot more open for 2026. 2025, I kind of rebuilt my offers, my business. There was a lot of, okay, I got to refilm things. I got to redo courses. I created a course plus coaching program for every single course that I had available. And again, you guys are going to be learning about all of those throughout the year. I'm very excited to teach you about that. But I've simplified everything now for 2026. So I've got more time to be a guest on other podcasts. First question that, I know you guys are intelligent, and that intelligent question that is sitting in your brain piece is, how are you going to do this, big guy? So how am I going to do this? One of the nice things about building up an audience, and again, I'm almost 11 years into the game. In 2026, I'll cross my 11-year podcast anniversary. So I've got a lot of episodes, a lot of experience, a lot of connections. I've got a robust social media following. I got a robust email list. So me just putting it out there saying, hey, I'm going to be a guest on more, like if you got a marketing podcast, a social media podcast, an online business podcast, a podcast about podcasting, any of that stuff, I'm a great guest and I'll say yes to you. I don't care how many, downloads you've got. I don't care how many episodes you've got. I will be a guest on your show. All you have to do is just ask me. All right. So you can reach out, podcastingbusinessschool@gmail.com, or reach out, DM me on Threads. I also check my DMs on Instagram. Don't DM me on LinkedIn. I'm over there like once a month checking DMs. So I have that. I just did that. And some of you will reach out and say, hey, I'd love for you to come on my marketing, my business podcast or whatever. I don't guest on like health podcasts, weight loss based podcasts, things like that. It kind of needs to fit the message and the ecosystem that I'm building here with Podcasting Business School. So keep that in mind. So that is one of the ways I'll be guesting on shows. And a lot of you have like small to medium sized shows. And again, I have zero problem being a guest on small to medium sized shows. But I'm also using my strategic guesting opportunity where I'm going to be pulling people in that I want to interview on this show and build relationships with, and hoping for an invite eventually back onto their platform. I'm just looking for different ways I can reach out to shows that I would like to feature on this channel, but also I would like to be a featured speaker on their podcast as well. And I'm building those relationships. So that's the main strategy for me, guesting on 1 to 4 shows per month. I am not paying anybody to like guesting or PR or anything like that. Now, one specific strategy that I can't not mention when I talk about podcast guesting, and this is like my go-to. This is the thing that works every single time. And so I just got to drop this little nugget for you here, Pod Pal. So when I'm a guest on someone else's show, if you invite me on your show, I will have notes going in as to where I think the conversation might go. And I'll have 3 to 5 of my specific episodes that could be mentioned or brought up or added to your show notes when I'm a guest on your show. And my goal is just to mention at least one specific episode. So even if it's at the end when you're like, hey, Adam, go ahead and take a minute and shout out whatever you want. I will not go, hey, check out Podcasting Business School wherever you listen to audio. I will not give the general Podcasting Business School show call to action. I will say, hey, based off of our conversation that we've had here today, I think a great next step would be this specific episode of my show, episode blah, 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 Podcasting Business School. And then I'll ask you to add that link to your show notes as well. But that strategy alone will get way more people they're listening to a show right now. And they're an active podcast listener. It's really easy for them to click on the link in the show notes and get that episode. Even if you don't put the link in your show notes for your episode that I'm a guest on, it's super easy just to go to Podcasting Business School on that same app, scroll down episode 500, whatever, 600, whatever, and just download it. Boom. Now they've got that on their phone, ready to listen to, right? Fresh out of the oven. So that is my specific episode mention strategy when I'm a guest on shows like yours. All right, that's my second part of the strategy here. Be a guest on at least 4 shows per month, which is aggressive. For some of you, that may be like, whoa, that's a lot. I've never been a guest on a podcast, let alone 4 per month. So a less aggressive goal starting out would be 6 shows in the year. If you've never been a guest on a podcast before, I want you to get on 6 shows this year. And that's like 1 every other month on average. 1 per month, even better. All right, maybe you're like, hey, I want to be a guest on 12 shows or 15 or 20. That's very doable. All right. And when you guys kind of get into my ecosystem as a client and things like that, I definitely love to help people network and get you, in front of the type of people that you can connect with, collab with, and maybe be a guest on their show as well. All right. Third thing that I'm adding to my podcast growth strategy for 2026 is I will continue running an ad on Overcast FM every month, other than December. That's the only month I don't do ad campaigns on there. But Overcast FM is a podcast player app. All right. Just like Apple, just like Spotify. You can run banner ads so that I can pick the category like business or education or even like news or sports or comedy and run a banner ad. You're listening to a business show. Some of you have found me from Overcast FM. Shout out to everybody that has. And you were listening to a business show or a marketing show, and the banner ad for Podcasting Business School popped up. All right. I have an effective strategy there where it's really easy to read my podcast logo, Podcasting Business School. It doesn't have a giant picture of my face on it or anything like that. And I've got like a line and a half of text on there. You clicked on it and you hit the subscribe button. And I love Overcast FM. So with that, I will continue each and every month to snag ads. Just real quick, I don't want this episode to turn into an Overcast FM overview, but I shoot for a $7 or less cost per acquisition. They give you estimates based off of the current pricing on Overcast FM, and it's overcast.fm/ads is the place you go to set up your first ad on Overcast. And there's no targeting. Like, you literally, when I teach clients this, they're like, that's it. It took 30 seconds. I'm like, yep, super easy, right? You just pay, pick your category, do your line and a half of text, and it is running for 30 days. But we shoot for $7 or less cost per acquisition. So if I'm looking at the sports category and it's like $15 CPA, I'm like, okay, let's wait it out. We got to wait for $7 or less. And they'll give you an estimate of how many actual subscribers you'll probably get from running this ad. And it'll be like, oh, you'll get 45 to 70. And that's super attractive because I know a lot of you are not getting 45 downloads per episode. So what if you could pay $250 to run an ad in a category like education or something like that, or true crime or whatever, and someone's listening to a true crime podcast, they see your banner and 45 people click on it and hit the subscribe button. Real life humans. These are real life people. This isn't like click farm stuff. This is a strategy that I use every single month and I've got my clients using. So this is something that I will be doing again for 2026 because it continues to produce really, really good results. All right. Fourth, I will continue running ads in newsletters every single week. I run between 1 and 3 ads, paid ads in newsletters every single week. And this strategy, I know a lot of you, most of you are not doing this. And I've got some little nuances within this strategy that I'll try to unpack. Again, this deserves its own full episode probably. Maybe I'll add that to my content calendar here. But when I'm running an ad in a newsletter, where am I finding these? What kind of newsletters are these? I think I like to have a mix of big industry standard newsletters. Like if you are in the fitness space or personal growth space, you probably are subscribed to some newsletters that have like 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 plus subscribers. And they allow you to advertise on that newsletter. They will take sponsors. You probably see them. This newsletter, today's newsletter is being sponsored by blah, blah, blah. Some of them are really expensive. Some of them are surprisingly not expensive at all. All right. So we look for those, and I do some of that. Then I also, like anytime you have a guest on your show, I think one of the onboarding questions that you have them fill out is, do you have an email list? Are you emailing them regularly? AKA, do you have a newsletter? I mean, you can use whatever verbiage you want there, but ask them if they accept sponsors. Like, do you have sponsors for your weekly newsletter? If not, would you be open to a discussion? These are great opportunities. I was talking to one of my clients in my group coaching last week. I was like, you've interviewed a lot of people. I guarantee some of them have newsletters. They're like 1,000 plus, probably, maybe 500. I mean, who cares how many they have? An ideal would be like 500 plus, but maybe they got 200 people on there, but it's super engaged and active. All right, great. But I guarantee that a lot of those people have never had someone ask them if they could have, sponsor a send of their newsletter. And you can kind of be their test person and go, okay, well, you got 1,000 people on your newsletter. I like kind of like a 10% of the list starting point for pricing. Really like back of the envelope, rough math. Open rate and niche is really important as well. And kind of what you're offering and all that with the strategy. But so if they've got 1,000 people on the list, I'll say, okay, 10% of that's $100. Let's throw that at them. And if I can grab an ad for 10% of the list size in dollars, I'm pretty happy with that. So if they've got, 4,000 people, I'm going to throw $400 at them, and so on and so forth. And obviously there's kind of like an upper limit. I'm not like 40,000 people, 4,000, maybe not, probably not. Okay. But the real key for me with a newsletter ad is I do not advertise my podcast. I do not advertise a lead magnet. I advertise my newsletter in a newsletter. The most effective ad strategy for me is what I call same language ads. So again, with Overcast FM, that is a banner ad for people that are listening to a podcast actively for my podcast. I'm advertising my podcast to people that are actively listening to a podcast. So for the newsletter ads, I actively advertise my newsletter to someone that is reading a newsletter. I don't want to make an assumption that they are a podcast listener. What I would like to do is get them on my newsletter list and convince them that listening to my podcast is a really good idea, and maybe buying some of my offers. So, or buying one offer. We'll start there. But I think that is one of those steps that I've just learned to be more patient as an entrepreneur. The deeper I've gotten into this journey of not just like shooting my shot and like, got to go for the thing that I actually want. Like, you have to go, what is the next step that really makes the most sense for that person that we're trying to get to take that next step? So someone is reading a newsletter. Let's put my newsletter in front of them, and then we can bring them down. Like, if I know if somebody subscribes to my newsletter and listens to my podcast, the chances that that person eventually becomes a client is really high. I think most of my clients that have paid me real life human money can check both those boxes. And they found me from the newsletter and listened to the show, or vice versa. They found me from the show, subscribe to my newsletter. All right. So those are some thoughts on running ads in newsletters. And you don't have to break the bank, but look for opportunities. Again, especially with previous guests or future guests. And maybe you can be that first person. Like if somebody goes, hey, I've got an email list of 1,000 people, I'm like, all right, let me sponsor your next newsletter send. Let's figure out what that looks like for you. And I can kind of be your test person. And then that makes them look good because all of a sudden they have a little sponsor and they send to their list. I guarantee you somebody from their list reaches out and go, hey, how do I get to be a sponsor? I saw you had a sponsor and you're doing that now. Didn't know you did that. How could I sponsor whatever for your newsletter? So it makes them look good as well. All right, last one. Number 5 strategy that I'm focusing on is I'm going to continue focusing on one social media platform, and that is going to be Threads. And I know I have mentioned in my newsletter and in this very podcast, we had a scare with Threads earlier this year, early November. If you guys are newer to my audience, my Threads account got shut down. I worked really hard for a year. I had like 3,400 people that I grew in a year on Threads. Fastest growing platform I've ever experienced, getting new followers every day, podcast listeners every week, new clients mostly every week, like adding to my email list every single day from that platform. Really loving it. November, a community bot flagged my account as being a bot account. Obviously, I'm very human, and it shut me down. And I thought I lost it. But anyway, long story short, we got it back. I've since made up with Threads, and it works so well, and so many good things are coming out of it. I can't give it up, even though it really scared me there in early November 2025. So I'm going to continue to focus on this platform because of the things that I mentioned before. I'm getting engagement every single day, new followers, like ideal fit new followers. A lot of you found me on Threads that are listening to this show right now. A lot of you, all right? It's easy to market your podcast on there. There are podcasters and podcast listeners actively on there. The growth and the algorithm are very effective and it's just really, and I like speaking that language. It's text-based, easy for me, good to go. And for me, like this year, I've gone through that kind of social media minimalist journey, and I will just continue down that journey. I like focusing on one platform. I spend probably 15 minutes or less per week on other platforms. So you'll still see me messing around on Instagram. I'll post something to promote my podcast episode, maybe on Facebook or LinkedIn. And that's about it. But Threads is like every day, 3 times a day, putting out good content because it's working so freaking well. So I'm going to continue doing that. I'm not going to feel that FOMO and be like, lots of people talking about YouTube these days. I'm going to dip my toe in the water again. It's just like the trade out for me now is not there. So kind of transitioning from that point into a few things that I won't be doing this year to give you all just the 411, the update. One is live speaking. And I love live speaking. I think speaking on live stages, like in person is what I'm talking about. I'll be doing Zoom stuff and podcast guesting and all that. Like live speaking and public speaking is excellent. I highly recommend it. I won't be doing it this year for a very specific reason, and that is our family schedule. All right. So my family schedule just will not allow me to kind of peace out and leave my wife here hanging in the wind to handle the kids by themselves. Like it's just too hard. My son is a freshman in high school. He goes to he got a scholarship to play sports at a private high school, but they're 30 minutes away. So the driving schedule is really intense. It's really, really difficult to pull off with just one person with 2 kids, and they're all going different directions all at once. And that's just the way it is. So we're kind of taking this year to get it figured out. I should be able to get back on the speaking circuit. It's really killing me not to be at Podfest here in January. I've spoken there 7 years in a row. I've spoken at Content Entrepreneur Expo 2 years in a row. That's kind of, I love those events, and I would attend them whether I speak or not. And it's just kind of a family first thing for this year. I've got to figure out what it is like with this new, family schedule adventure that we have with my son's high school journey, and we want to support him. And that's the most important thing. So that's why I won't be at Podfest this year. So I hope everybody goes out there and has a great time here in January, and say hi to everybody for me. All right. The second thing I won't be doing this year again is like video content. I'll screw around a little bit on Instagram I actually had somebody kind of call me out like, hey, I thought you weren't doing any video content. What is this? It's a piece of video. And what I am doing is like I will write a long form thread post with all this text and it's got, real robust copy and all that stuff. I will take the hook from that, go to Instagram. I will get some B-roll of me speaking on a stage in the past like 5 years. And I will slap that hook on that piece of video clip, and I'll take the rest of the copy, and that'll be the copy for the post. So I am doing a little bit of that, just because I kind of like experimenting and testing and going, especially if it's a promotion for an episode, because we still need to promote our episodes with that 72-hour promotion window. So that's still part of my strategy, but I'm not like going to sit in front and be like, all right, long form YouTube video, or let me dance around for TikTok or something like that. Like I'm not actively recording anything, but I've got all these videos on my phone. If any of you have ever sat in the crowd when I speak on live stage, I always have like 2 or 3 people that are my friends, and like I have a video team or anything. I ask my friends to take videos of me from different angles and things, and I just reuse that very effectively. And I use it I've been using it for years. So anyway, that's the limit to my video strategy. And kind of tying in with that, the last thing is you're not going to see me really active on platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Pinterest, TikTok, YouTube, and even Instagram. And again, I'm not knocking any of or all of those platforms at all. If you are crushing on LinkedIn, you need to be on LinkedIn. Pinterest, like that goes for across the board. So I'm not saying don't do these. I'm trying to lead by example. And I will keep doing this over and over and over again because that be everywhere mantra is so strong right now. And I feel like a lot of us burn out and quit from trying to follow that advice. And I just want to continue to be an example of somebody that's not doing that. Like, hey, I'm going to be on Threads. I got an audio only podcast and I've got my newsletter. That's like the core. That's what you're going to get from me. And I'm not putting any pressure on myself and feeling the FOMO of like, oh, really missing out by not being on LinkedIn or whatever. All right. So I just want to continue to be an example of somebody that's kind of going against the grain. And if you feel like that speaks to you, then that I'm somebody that you can kind of hitch your wagon to and learn from, whether it's from this show or, a coaching program or whatever. So those are the things I'm going to focus on in 2026, and a few things that, again, I'm not making a focus point. I can always change my mind. I can always learn and backtrack and experiment and try something new. But that's kind of the general game plan. So if you need some help with your 2026 game plan, what I'd recommend is checking out the bonus offer we got going through the end of the week here. My new course plus coaching program. You're going to get my podcast growth bootcamp course plus full weeks of pop-in office hours group coaching with me, plus the bonus 5th week if you purchase by Friday, January 9th. I will automatically add that to your account. So would love for you to take advantage of that if you need a little bit of help of implementing and creating your growth game plan for 2026. All right, Pod Pals, I appreciate you for tuning in this week. And with that, I'm going to send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. I will see you on the next episode.